President Trump is taking a stand against Vladimir Putin in a way that we've rarely, if ever, heard from him before.
We are very unhappy, I am, with Russia. We want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. I've been hearing so much talk. It's all talk. It's all talk, and then missiles go into Kiev and kill 60 people. It's got to stop. I speak to him a lot about getting this thing done. And I always hang up and say, well, that was a nice phone call. And then missiles are launched into Kiev or some other city. And I said, it's strange. And after that happens 3 or 4 times, you say, the talk doesn't mean anything.
After years of heaping praise on the Russian leader, of touting their personal relationship, of taking Putin's word over his own government's at times, the scene that played out today inside the Oval Office encapsulated a remarkable shift for this president. To underscore his anger, he's giving Putin an ultimatum and threatening action that many people, from Capitol Hill all the way to Kyiv, have been calling for. The president announced a deal to allow NATO to buy American-made weapons to supply Ukraine on the battlefield, while also threatening economic punishment if Putin fails to reach a peace deal in the next 50 days. It would mark the first time, and this does mark the first time, that we've seen the president take direct action against Putin's aggression this term, marking an unmistakable departure from the years of comments like these.
I respect Putin. He's a strong leader, I can tell you that.
If he says great things about me, I'm going to say great things about him.
One of my best meetings ever was with Vladimir Putin. Putin meeting was one of the best meetings I've had.
I get along with President Putin.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him. Putin is smart. He's a very smart guy. He's a very cunning person. When I got elected, we spoke, and I think we're going to have a deal.
It remains to be seen tonight how President Putin will respond to President Trump's new threat and how the president himself will follow through on it. Questions that I asked his ambassador to NATO at the White House this afternoon. The president is sending defensive weapons to Ukraine. Is there any plan to send offensive weapons? Is that under consideration?
Well, so all weapons are both offense and defense. Obviously, air defense is important and critical for the situation, but at the same time, we're not taking anything off the table.
And when it comes to the tariffs that he's threatening to put in place against Russia, Russia imports very little to the United States. So how do you ensure that it has actual impact?
Well, it's because they're secondary sanctions. It's sanctions on countries that are buying the oil from Russia. And so it's not about sanctioning Russia. It's about tariffs on countries like India and China that are buying their oil. And it really is going to, I think, dramatically impact the Russian economy.
And how did the president decide on 50 days?
We need an end to this war. The slaughter that's happening is unbelievable. Russia has picked up 1% of Ukrainian territory in the last 18 months, and they've lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers on the battlefield. The time to end the slaughter is now. The time to end the killing is now. And so 50 days is the appropriate amount of time because it needs to happen now.
And my lead source tonight is one of the primary supporters of a bill to sanction Russia, one with 85 co-sponsors, I should note, in the Senate. Connecticut Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal is here with me now, and it's great to have you, Senator. Just first on this remarkable shift from President Trump. I mean, looking at that compared to what he was even just saying when he took office, it is quite something. Do you think that he's putting enough pressure on Putin tonight?
I think that it is a remarkable turn and a very positive step, not only economic sanctions, but also military aid that will be, in effect, sold to NATO and then provided to Ukraine. But these economic sanctions that he's talking about are good. Our bill is better. He's applying a hammer. We have a sledgehammer. And our bill is also broader because it applies to the Russia shadow fleet. I think that we'll know in 50 days whether Putin changes his tune. I am not optimistic. I think we should push forward with our bill. 85 co-sponsors. It'll have 90 votes if it's given a vote. And I think we need that kind of sledgehammer.
So you don't think Putin's going to come to the table in the next 50 days? You don't see that happening?
Given his history, and I think the president's right, a lot of nice talk, but very, very little in the way of sensible kinds of proposals to Ukraine for any kind of ceasefire or peace talk. So I'm pessimistic, that Putin will alter his strategy before force is actually applied. He's a thug. He understands force, economic force or military force, and our sanctions will be a force multiplier because the Europeans are looking to us. As I saw when we visited Rome recently for the Coalition of the Willing, every one of those presidents, prime ministers, thanked Senator Graham and myself for moving forward with the sanctions bill.
So do you think your sanctions bill, which to be clear would go up to it would essentially allow him to go up to basically 500%? He was saying today that there's not much difference made above 100%. Do you think it ultimately is going to get a vote?
I believe it will. And the reason I think it will is that the president was very receptive to the bill today in tone, maybe not a full-throated endorsement, but also the leadership of the Senate as well as the House is behind it. And there are some details, some I's and T's that need to be dotted and crossed, but we are very, very close now. And I hope, within the next month or two, we will have approval by both houses of Congress.
Because the majority leader, John Thune, had said that your bill could see a vote during this working session. Right now, he says we'll wait and see over these next 50 days. Are you worried about what Putin could do in these next 50 days, the damage that he could inflict on Ukrainian cities?
I am not only worried, I am heartbroken about the continued killing, murderous reign of terror from the skies. I visited Ukraine. I've seen the apartment buildings and schools and hospitals that have been devastated. I've talked to the children, some of them who were kidnapped. There are 20,000 of them. And Russia ought to be declared a terrorist state if it doesn't return those children. So Putin has absolutely no moral compunction about continuing the kind of brutal, barbaric war that he's conducting.
Well, and just on the weapons that they are sending with the Patriots and the interceptors to be able to basically help Ukraine defend itself from those Russian missiles. You had dinner tonight with the NATO Secretary General, who was at the White House with the president today. Was it clear whether he expects any of these purchases that are going to Ukraine of weapons to include anything they don't have already?
They need more of what they have already. Secretary General has been really heroic in his leadership on this issue, talking to President Trump and being an interlocutory with the different NATO countries. And what I saw when I visited with him and the other NATO leaders, the Prime Minister of England and President of France, Prime Minister of Italy, they have different and diverse points of view. But one of the reasons to push forward with our bill is to have the unity that they have, show the unity with the president, and make sure that sanctions are bulletproof against any kind of legal challenge.
I want to ask you about something else that the president mentioned in the Oval Office today. This comes after an interview that the former president, President Biden, did today, where he told the New York Times that he made the decisions about who to grant clemency to as he was on his way out of the office, but that the auto pen was used to actually sign those pardons. Trump commented that today and said this.
Sending letters back. That's what an auto pen's supposed to be. To write to a young 7-year-old boy that writes to the president and he wants to be president someday and he loves America. That's what the auto pen's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be for signing major legislation and all the things. No, the auto pen, and I doubt he knew.
Now, using the auto pen is totally legal, I should note. There's a memo from the DOJ that says as much. But for an authority as great as that one of granting someone a pardon or clemency, do you think it's appropriate to use auto pen, or should the president sign those themselves, especially when it's smaller numbers of pardons?
I think in a decision of that moment, of that importance, a personal signature is probably a better practice. There were a number of clemencies. I don't know what the president was thinking when he used or authorized the use of auto pen, but one way or the other, I think this issue is a complete distraction from the really important issues, whether it's Ukraine and defending their freedom, in our national security, inflation and rising prices that continue, other kinds of issues relating to the dismantlement of government that we're watching in real time and the threat to our democracy. So I think it is a distraction.
Senator Blumenthal, thank you, and hopefully you'll come back when your bill gets a vote, if it gets a vote. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.